Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to race 26 of Season 9 of the NNSCRA Marvel Studios Cup Series. Yes, we're getting closer to the end of the season. I am Levi McIntyre, the voice of the NNSCRA Marvel Studios Cup Series, here to welcome you to the GEICO 500 at Talladega Superspeedway. We're getting set for 29 laps of racing here at this classic restrictor plate track, but I am not alone. Joining me for commentary is none other than James Qualls.
What's up, everyone?
So, Qualls, before we get into everything, I just wanted to get quick comments on how you've been feeling about your progression this season, considering this is your first season in a new manufacturer, Dodge, for your own team for the first time ever. Yeah, it's like you've been having quite an up and down season. Whenever you're running good, you run good. When it's the opposite end of the scale, it doesn't always look good. So, what are your thoughts so far this season, and what plans do you have going into Season 10?
Well, we're looking at a new sponsor for the 70 team for next season. We think we're close to closing the deal out, but it's likely that we'll probably get one. But of course, Castrol and Hunt Brothers will stay on the card next season. So and we'll stick with Dodge, and so give that another shot. So yeah, Quentin and Ryan have both been running strong this season as well too. And real proud of their performance this season too. And the 70 team, we need to get a performance up on our card. It's like you said, we run good at times, but when we're on, we're usually pretty on. But when we're off, we're way off. So.
And you're not the only big name driver in the series that's had this same struggle. Like Dylan Jacobs has been having the same thing. Cole Deaver, Stuart
That's
Campbell,
surprising.
Dylan Potee, Charles Sanford, among so many others who have been struggling this season, whether it be in qualifying or in the actual race.
Yeah, Dylan Jacobs, that's a big surprise because that's a former champion in your series. He's won. He's the man who's usually who's usually up there about almost every race, but yeah, his team's kind of struggling a little bit. But it's like you mentioned, Young and Potee, Sanford, and a few others. And it's thing of it is, it's some of the new names that's come into your series. On the other hand, though, they've come on strong. Especially the Horsemen and the Shadow Cult teams. And so they've been one of the team among the teams to watch in this series. So we'll be interesting. But Talladega is always the great equalizer, as we all know. So we'll see what happens here today.
And with that said, let's take a look at the starting lineup for the race today. Starting in the last row is Jessica Sheldon, Carson Gum. The top 10, James Qualls is on the pole for this week. Starting next to him is Daniel Voiles. Row 2, Henry Sanford, Quentin Moore. Row 3, Melissa Alexander, Jonathan Zorline. Row 4, Jordan Lopez, Jay Jefferson. And then row 5, Michael Norman and Stephen Kalan. Let's get the command to fire engines for the GEICO 500 at Talladega.
Drivers, start your engines!
All 40 drivers getting ready to come out of pit road for the pace lap before we go green. So yeah, Talladega, back when we were last here earlier in the season, it was a really good race, but it wasn't nearly as competitive as we saw with the Daytona 500. Like this season, in terms of most leaders and lead changes in a single race, the Daytona 500's still been that race where everyone went balls to the wall insanity. Whereas the second Daytona race, still good, but didn't have nearly as much competition. First Talladega race, kind of in that same vernacular. But we have noticed this season, it's like the more competitive tracks we've seen have been somewhat the short tracks and the intermediate tracks. Especially tracks like North Wilkesboro, Bristol, even other short tracks that we've had this season have shown some glimmer of great competition. I think it's with the combination of this mod, the different packages we're using for each specific track, and it all just seems to work out very, very well. And we've had a lot of good finishes this season, but with Talladega here today, we might get another one of those great finishes, and we could see the big one strike. But then again, just a little while ago, like over a week ago, we had that race at Armory Digital where Daniel Bouchard took the wildest ride in the history of this series of 25 flips. Hopefully we don't see something like that again here today, but you never know what could happen.
And I almost had those cleared out of my memory bank. Ugh. Ugh.
Yeah, you did not have a great run there. But
no,
regardless,
got passed on the last lap for the win. That's what happened.
Yeah, but regardless, we're here in Talladega. Things may turn around as we're getting ready to go green for 29 laps of racing. Pace car is now into pit road, and 40 cars on track. Only one can win as we're coming through the tri-oval. And ladies and gentlemen, you know what that means. It is time to boogity, boogity, boogity go racing. Well, James Qualls led the first lap, but now is probably going to take it easy for a little bit as Melissa Alexander, with the push from Jordan Lopez, takes over the top spot on the track. Now, one thing we forgot to mention coming into this race, as we get closer and closer to the end of the season, after this race, it's 10 left to go. And the championship battle is starting to heat up between the top two, who, ironically enough, in the original recording of this race, or of the first Talladega race that you and I did, Qualls, that unfortunately didn't go through, we saw that we were talking about how Zachary Fitzwater and Scott Groverston would be among two of the drivers battling it out for the championship. Well, here we are in the second race, and it's still those two going at it.
And they've been the most consistent as well, too. And, we saw Fitzwater, I think, I think he won that race at Talladega, the first race there, and it's like you said, that I still hold on to it. It's going to be either him and Groverston, and probably two of the drivers to watch for the championship. As we watch the trying to see who that is in 14 car. Matt McIntyre take the lead here, and he's got Kyle Matthews shoving him behind him, and but as you know as well as I do as well too, that can change as the season, as this race ends. That can, those two drivers could drop back quite a few spots after this race too, if something happens to those two.
Yeah, because coming into this race, a couple of cars getting shoved up into the wall, but no caution. Quentin Moore, Henry Sanford, and Jonathan Zorling ended up making some contact. No spin. They keep it together. But I think they are going to lose the pack. Dylan Jacobs on the very tail end, and then I think Jefferson, Fitzwater, and Ashland Boyd, and that's two of the top three in the standings. Fitzwater and Boyd, they're going to lose the pack too. So whatever just took place with some cars getting shoved up into the wall has definitely caused a ripple effect in the field. But back up at the front, Riley Henry leads this lap over Ryan Acosta. But I was going to bring up too, after the race we had this past Monday at Twin Ring Motegi, the point standings as a whole shuffled up in a big way, whereas coming into that race, Fitzwater and Groverston were leading by a huge margin over third by about 90 some odd points. Now, Ashland Boyd's only 70 points back, so if something like that were to happen again today, we could see drivers like Ashland Boyd, Matt McIntyre, Carson Gum, Caleb Kilburn, among others. Oh, and we just got a crash!
Oh, problem!
The big one has struck. Some cars managing to save it and not hit anything. James Quall sideways, but doesn't hit nothing. Oh, Jake Jefferson, hard contact. William Brock, heavily damaged. Dylan Jacobs was in it. Ashland Boyd, third in points, was also involved. Numerous drivers caught up in this one. Oh, and we got another crash! Another crash. A secondary accident has just taken place, and a lot of cars stuck on the apron. Jesse Turner was one of them. Stuart Campbell, Seth Cole, Chris Dollarton, Ryan Acosta. So many contenders, but that was a lucky break for drivers like Zachary Fitzwater, who had lost a pack. Oh, Matt McIntyre, fourth in points, was involved. A lot of
we saw him leading about a couple laps ago as well, too.
Yeah, oh, Carson Gum, fifth in points, was involved. I think the better question is who all wasn't involved. Look, rear end, big rear end damage on Riley Henry. And he was scored second, too. So I'd say about
just
half
exactly
of
what
the
I was talking
field.
about.
I'd say about half the field had just sustained damage in some capacity.
Exactly what I was talking about here just a minute ago here, how things can change in the points, so...
Absolutely, but Dylan Young, who was one of the lucky ones to not get involved in anything, and he's the current leader. Let's take a look and see everything that just unfolded, what brought the caution out, as well as the aftermath here at Talladega. Well, here's a look at what happened. So they were 4 wide coming off of turn 4, and the first contact that's going to happen, Chris Dollarton gets a little bit tight, gets into Henry Durand, into William Brock, up into Stuart Campbell, Michael Norman, and a couple others are going to get collected in all this. There you see as Campbell and Colon come down into Qualls, Lamas, Forbes, Jacobs, all just getting sent sideways, but without sustaining big-time damage. So I'd expect some of those guys to stay competitive. But then I need to stay on the 29 of William Brock, because I believe what's going to happen is some of those cars who lost the draft are going to come flying into the mess and are going to run over... Oh, Fitzwater escaped, but right there, the contact from Ashland Boyd, and then a big hit from Jay Jefferson. So that was what happened with those two guys, but Fitzwater was so lucky he got by all that. But now, let's try and find what happened to cause the secondary crash after the caution had been taken. So I'm watching up ahead, the 40 of Riley Henry, right next to Dylan Young. I got a feeling they're going to slow down and nobody gets the memo, and they're just going to run over one another. But we're about to find out in just a moment. Everything seemed fine so far. So I'm going to be curious to see how all this happens. Well, Mitchell Collins goes down to the apron. Oh, Matt McIntyre gets in the Dylan Poteet, up in the Joey Parkhill, Ryan Acosta, all getting in there. And that's how that starts. And then as far as what happens up here, oh, Carson Gum's going to come down into Jessica Sheldon, up into Riley Henry. And Sheldon nearly went over, and then Jackson Traeger, Keith Miller Jr. get involved. Just a lot of miscommunication. Oh, does Groverston hit the 60? No, he doesn't. The second in points manages to get right through. But man, just mayhem. And then what in the world, what else happened with this initial incident? Oh, it was just everybody just slowing down, running over one another, and just a lack of communication among the drivers is what caused this secondary incident to take place, and just people running over one another, causing damage. So I got a feeling like only about less than half the field is going to be able to contend for the win now, because I feel like a lot of these guys are going to be slightly off the pace because of damage. Like right there, Daniel Voiles into the 78. so many problems taking place under caution that did not need to happen. So shame on the drivers for that. That's just me, of course. But let's take you to the restart here at Talladega. Well, after the multiple multi-car accidents that took place during and causing the caution, only 6 cars out of the race, and they include Carson Gum, who will be the lucky one to still get points, then Matt McIntyre, Seth Cole, William Brock, Ashlyn Boyd, and Jay Jefferson. But we have 30 cars on the lead lap, 34 in total on the racetrack, but how many of those are going to be up to speed? That's the bigger question. But look at the field. Dylan Young is currently the leader. Second is Rafael Leduc. Third is Jackson Traeger, though I'm going to be curious to see if he's going to be up to speed. Fourth, Alyssa Drayson. Fifth is Trey Wright. Sixth, Kyle Matthews. Seventh, Scott Groverston. Eighth, Mitchell Collins. Ninth, Caleb Kilburn. 10th, Daniel Bichard. 11th, Alexander Rowe. 12th, Zachary Fitzwater. 13th, Cody Lamas. 14th, Dylan Jacobs. 15th, Riley Henry. 16th, Daniel Voiles. 17th, Keith Miller Jr. 18th, Chris Dollarton. 19th, Melissa Alexander. 20th, Jonathan Zorlane. 21st is Henry Sanford. 22nd, Jessica Shelton. 23rd, Stephen Kalan. 24th, Joey Parkhill. 25th, Dylan Pote. 26th is Jordan Forbes. 27th, Jordan Lopez. 28th, Michael Norman. 29th, Quentin Moore. 30th, James Qualls, and then the rest of the cars are a lap down restarting on the inside. Jesse Turner, Henry Durand, Ryan Acosta, and Stuart Campbell. But when we get back to racing, it'll be 20 laps to go. Still a long way to go here at Talladega, and anything can happen. Heck, even the guys at the very back could find their way up here at the front if they get through slower cars efficiently enough. But a bit of a jumbled
it's like you said,
lineup here, though.
It's like you said too. It depends on who else up to speed and who is not. Those 4 cars that are not on the lead lap, they're down the bottom. That I'd be watching them, see how much trouble they'll be for the leaders.
And the green flag is back out, and so far everybody's going to the high side for the most part to go on right by. As I'm watching Jesse Turner, who's leading those 4 slower cars. Well, maybe Turner ain't slow. He was just in there. He seems to still be up to speed despite no rear bumper, which is the crazy part. Henry Durand, yeah, a tad bit off the pace. Stuart Campbell, a tad bit off the pace. So really the big slow one in that moment was Ryan Acosta. So that's a bit of a shock. So they're not as off the pace as I thought they would be, and Riley Henry, even with no rear bumper, even he's up to speed. So this could be like the 2020 Clash from Daytona, where even if you have some damage, you still got a chance. Ask Eric Jones how much that meant to him. But anyways, back up at the front.
Yeah.
But back up at the front, Dylan Young still leading the way as Jackson Traeger, despite a slight buckle in the front end, he's still up to speed. So maybe there is hope for some damaged cars yet.
Traeger's trying to look on the outside there. He's trying to get Rafael Duke to help him, and also Alyssa Drayson in the 87. But Dylan Young saw that and blocked them, but now he's going to lose the lead in that case too.
Trey Wright, oh, who just blew a motor? Jessica Sheldon's engine has expired. I feel like what happened was with the damage she sustained during that caution when she almost flipped, I think maybe they lost a cylinder in that incident and then it just finally expired. So Sheldon's...
And I'm looking inside the car right there, and I see where they build the breathing apparatuses in those helmets, because you saw all the smoke in the cockpit of Shelton's car after an engine explosion. That was a bad one.
Yeah, so after coming off a really good finish back at Twin Ring Motegi on Monday, she's going to end up falling possibly out of the top 20. Oh, what in the world? Henry Sanford went below the yellow line and kind of rubbed off on Caleb Kilburn a little bit to get a pass going. I think that was because of them being 4 wide. So I'm definitely going to announce a change for Talladega next season. We're going to be running a different Talladega in Season 10, so that way they could run 4 wide and not have any problems like this. But back up here at the front, side by side between Scott Groverston and Mitchell Collins. And Groverston trying to get all the points he can get ahead of Zachary Fitzwater so he could get the points lead back. But look at Daniel Bouchard, who's looking for win number 2 this season, and he's trying to forget about Twin Ring Motegi and come back and try and find his way back into the top 10 in points, even though it's a long shot right now. But Bouchard made that pass look easy, and to the lead goes Bouchard.
And Bouchard is one of those guys who's usually got some very fast cars in any series he runs in. But just half the time, his luck just never goes his way and everything. And you know, he's like, and more times than not, he's had wins being screwed out of him too.
And not to mention, apart from getting his first win fairly recently, had the worst wreck of the season so far back at Armory Digital, where he flipped and barrel rolled 25 times. Which was insanity. But right now, having a strong run up here at the front, but Scott Groverston, the veteran in his second season, who's been one of the dominant drivers all season long, he's looking to go for win number 3 here this season. He picked up a few wins in his rookie year last season, got 2 wins back at Christmas Miracle in Texas, but he's looking for win number 3 and try and get the points lead back. But he's got a lot of competition to battle him for the win. I see Cody Lamas, who's definitely got a lot to prove for himself, as he's not qualified for a lot of races. In fact, he and Adam Garcia are the ones who have made the least amount of races. Coming into the race, at least. Cody, this is his 11th start. Oh, they're going to be 4 wide. Keep it together. Okay, they do keep it together. That's good. But Groverston hanging on the bottom.
He just about made contact sideswipe with 16 of Rafael Duke right there, and that would have been really bad right there.
But let's take a look at some of these other drivers. There's Alyssa Drayson, whose first half of the season was very, very lackluster, including missing the Daytona 500. But ever since the second half started, she's been on a gradual roll, getting 2 wins, up to 10th in the point standings. She's definitely looking to try and claw her way up into the championship battle, but she's got a lot of work. She comes in 99 points behind the points leader, but right now she's running fairly strong up here in the top 5. She could find herself possibly even as high as the top 5 in points, because remember, coming into this race, from 3rd on down to 11th, it's 29 points separating. So it's very close from 3rd down to 11th. But Daniel Bouchard actually making the outside line work, which is quite impressive. I think it's because more up-to-speed cars were running up on the outside, and that's how they were able to get the advantage on the straightaway there.
But that's all gone out the window now, because Scott Groverston and Alyssa Drayson, well, they were leading Bouchard, but here comes, I was going to say that, Bouchard's coming back on him.
Yeah, Bouchard's running very strong on the outside. Perhaps the outside lane is the preferred lane for the 19, depending on who all he has behind him. But now, Groverston has the lead back for the time being. But Bouchard's still hanging on the outside. Don't count him out. And coming to the line, Groverston led the lap, but Bouchard was very close. So I feel like the best way you're going to have to win this race is to try and get Bouchard off the top side. Let's go to helicopter view and watch this all unfold from above. As everybody in this group except for Turner and Campbell are battling out for position. And this would go on back to 18th. So this is the top 18 plus 2 lap cars all up here in this lead group. And how about some of these drivers coming back, like Riley Henry with no rear end damage up here in the top 10. Dylan Jacobs, who was also involved in that crash. Melissa Alexander, Keith Miller Jr., Jackson Traeger, among others. All still within reach of the win. But let's take a look at the second group, led by Jordan Forbes. This is from 19th on back. And then everywhere else. But up here at the front, it is Daniel Bouchard, Scott Groverston, and Alyssa Drayson pretty much all fighting it out. Although Bouchard had no draft help, and now Alyssa Drayson to the front with help from fellow Toyota Rafael Leduc. Oh, but Leduc gonna leave her hanging, try and get to the lead for himself, and Leduc's going for win number 3 this season.
Yeah, you never count Rafael Leduc out, no matter what track we go to on the circuit. That car's always strong.
Despite hitting a slight slump in recent races, he's still in the top 10 in points, up to 8th in the standings. Oh, and they're about to catch the slower car of James Qualls. So let's see what's going to happen. Who's he going to hold up? Looks like Qualls holding up the bottom for the time being, but now going to go up to the top side and hold up Llamas and company. So, I don't know, maybe we'll see if Qualls can stay within the pack, because he is starting to pick up speed a little bit. I guess because he just lost a draft was the reason why he was so slow, but now I think, now that he's in the group, he should be slightly more up to speed now, which is a good thing. So this could expand to a 21-car pack with 3 lap-down cars, 18 on the lead lap. But up at the front, Melissa Alexander to the lead, but here comes Dylan Jacobs. We talked about earlier, Jacobs having a struggling season, a former series champion, has yet to go to victory lane. Could today be the day he breaks his curse?
Could be. And to those of you watching, by the way, I am sorry for holding y'all up. So...
But anyways, here comes the winner from Twin Ring Motegi this past Monday, Henry Sanford. He's trying to go for 2 in a row to be the 3rd driver this season to get 2 wins in a row. It was Groverston first, then Ashland Boyd. So could Henry Sanford pull that off? But then again, he just lost the lead as Trey Wright takes over the spot. But look at this, 2 of the young motorsports drivers, Mitchell Collins and Zachary Fitzwater, working together for the moment to get to the front, but Fitzwater, he says, you know what, I need the points. I'm going to take the lead now, buddy.
And we haven't talked about Zachary Fitzwater at all since he got through that first crash of the day right there. And look at him, he's worked his way up to the field right there. And that's what I like about his driving style in this race today. Though I mean, he hung back he hung back there thinking count on something may happen. And here we are coming out of 7 laps ago, and they're now counting 3 laps cars right there on the inside, including Acosta and a couple others. But, yes, Fitzwater's going to get boxed here.
Yeah, Acosta, Durand, and Dollarton all slow, and now they have been put into this group. So now the group's gotten bigger for the moment, but some of these guys are going to weave themselves out. But Fitzwater now getting held up by Dollarton, and he's losing a ton of spots as now Daniel Bouchard takes the lead back, and Rafael Leduc right behind him. But they are held up by Henry Durand. Now they're going to go by the 71. And you can definitely tell Durand is really slow as they just passed him with ease. But Bouchard led the lap, but here comes Leduc to get back there.
And you notice, of course, one face keeps reoccurring right there. We saw Fitzwater drop back, and look who's moving up now. Look out for that black and black 42.
Yeah, Groverson, 3rd car on the inside, pushing Keith Miller Jr., who's 7th in points. 2 wins on the season for him. He's looking to go for win number 3 as well. A lot of drivers trying to go for win number 2 or win number 3 up here at the front. Even Kyle Matthews, who had been on a big downward spiral the past couple of weeks, 16th in the standings, he might be going for win number 2 this season and hopes he can bounce back and get back in the top 10 as he's up here in the mix. Alexander Rowe, who's still searching for win number 1 of his career, he's in the mix. Riley Henry also trying to go for win number 1. He's up here in the group. Melissa Alexander trying to go for win number 1 this season, or at the very least, her first top 5. But because of those slower cars, it's made the field, or this group, very sporadic now. Mitchell Collins, Cody Lamas, Jackson Traeger, and Dylan Jacobs all being held up by Chris Dollarton as now they're going to lose to groups, so those guys are not going to be in contention now. So only from LeDuc down to Trey Wright, which is, I believe, down to 14th or 15th possibly, are going to be the ones to possibly end up settling it out for the victory, as it's now 4 laps to go. LeDuc led the lap, but here comes Matthews. And indeed, it is
like
the
you
top
said,
14.
talk about a person. And like you said, you talk about a person who really needs a real morale pick me up right there. Matthews, as you said, he's been struggling the last few race seasons. He's won in this series before, though, but been a long time for the number 09 Mellow Yellow team.
Matthews trying to hold everybody off for a few more laps, but Riley Henry right there on his tail with no rear bumper, yet he's still just as fast as everybody else on the track and still could win. Melissa Alexander, like I said, either first top 5 or win of the season would be good for her, but she's also getting pushed by the points leader, Zachary Fitzwater, who's still up here. Scott Groverston's still up here in the pack, although he's at the tail end of the pack for the time being, but that could change at any moment. But right now, the 78 trying to hold everybody off. But a lot of hungry drivers trying to get something done here. Caleb Kilburn, who also was involved in the first caution, 6th in the point standings. He's up here in the mix trying to go for win number 2 this season.
All I can say is with this field, of cars right there, you paid your money, now take your choice here. Who do you think's got with 2 laps to go?
And Fitzwater leads this lap with the push from the 09 of Matthews. Less than 2 laps to go now here at Talladega. Fitzwater trying to go for win number 2 in hopes he can extend his points lead, but you still got the 42 of Groverston, even though he's tail end of the lead lap cars in this pack. He's trying to get to the bottom, and now he is on the bottom. He could just pick his way up through the field and try and get to the front again. Now here comes Melissa Alexander back to the inside with a push from Trey Wright, who's also being pushed by Melissa's teammate Alyssa Drayson. We're getting down to the wire. We're coming through the tri-oval, getting ready to get to the white flag. Trey Wright to the inside to get the lead. Trey Wright trying to go for win number 1 in his career, as the white flag is out, but he's going to leave the bottom open for Alyssa Drayson to get to the front. Drayson trying to go for win number 3 this season, and the second plate win of the season for herself. But Dylan Young trying to go for win number 2 as well, as he's right here. And here comes Dylan Young with the push from lapped car Jesse Turner. Keith Miller Jr.'s coming up there. Groverston about to get into the mix. They're going to have one final shot going through the tri-oval, but Dylan Young has the lapped car between himself and Keith Miller Jr. That would be a good safe bet. Turner to the inside, but here comes Groverston. Oh, could be a close finish. Groverston's trying, checkered flag waving, not enough. Dylan Young, win number 2 of the season. He gets it. He wins the GEICO 500 at Talladega. Good thing he had that lapped car of Jesse Turner between himself and second place. Otherwise, that would have been a loss for the 2. So, but unbelievable. He had just won the Southern 500 last week. Then he comes back, wins here at Talladega. Win number 2 of the season, and a third win this season overall for Young Motorsports. Dylan Young, win number 2 this season. That should put him in the top 10 in points, possibly, but we'll find that out later. But great job for Dylan Young picking up win number 2. But let's look at the rest of the results. Scott Groverston, much needed good run in second, and that's his 8th top 5 of the season, 12th top 10 of the season, extending the record of this season. Meanwhile, Keith Miller Jr. rebounds from a lackluster performance at Twin Ring Motegi to get a 3rd place run. Daniel Bouchard, highest finishing rookie, with a strong run in 4th. And then Alexander Rowe rounding out the top 5 in 5th. Henry Sanford almost went 2 in a row, but still, great run in 6th, Alyssa Drayson continuing her momentum, finishing in 7th. Kyle Matthews, first top 10 in a little while, finishing in 8th. Trey Wright, great run in 9th. And then Riley Henry with a top 10 finish in 10th. Then there is the rest of your top 20, top 30, and the bottom 5 for this week were Matt McIntyre, Seth Cole, William Brock, Ashlyn Boyd, and Jay Jefferson. That does it for our coverage here today at Talladega. I would like to thank James Qualls for stopping by the booth today.
Always a pleasure here, and I tell you what a fine drive that was for Dylan Young. I tell you, if Groverston would have made that move about a couple hundred feet earlier, God, that would have been by inches. But but Dylan Young did what he needed to do, and like you said, thank goodness he had that lap car, Jesse Turner, between him and Groverston. But the Talladega, like I said, anything can happen. And good points there for several drivers that well needed, and some surprises up there too. But that's what I love. That's what I love about plate racing, though. Anything can happen.
Absolutely. As far as where we're heading to on Friday, you're just going to have to wait and find out about that. But until then, here is Dylan Young's victory burnout and the point standings heading into the race on Friday. And this is Levi McIntyre signing off.